creepy smile on my face. So I tend to ramble in the beginning until people sign on. So if you are new, my name is Kimberly. I write the blog, Keep the Tail Wagging. It is almost 10 years old. I can't believe I've been doing it for this long. And I write about my dogs. So I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a veterinarian, but I did switch my dogs to a raw food diet 8 years ago. And when I was switching them to raw, I found it crazy complicated. I was completely overwhelmed. And I started writing about what I was learning. And that's basically how I learned, is using my blog to get information from other people and then writing about it. So today we're going to be talking about the freezer, because I got a fantastic question from someone who was asking me about, freezing food. So when it comes to raw feeding, most of us are getting food that's either already frozen or we're getting food and tossing it into the freezer. I personally have 2 freezers in the garage as well as a fridge. All of those are dedicated to my dogs. I do have like a couple of things in the freezer for me, but it's very rare. It's, 99.9% of everything is for the dogs. And the reason why I have the freezers is because I have 4 dogs and they weigh between 60, 70 pounds. And it is more affordable for me to do DIY raw feeding rather than purchase commercial raw. And it's better for me to buy things in bulk, because I'm able to get a discount when I buy things by the case. So that's why I have all the freezers. When I buy things in bulk, I can stuff it into my freezers. Our kitchen freezer, it doesn't have a chance. So let's talk about freezing, and feel free to jump in and share your thoughts, advice, or ask questions. We're going to stick right on this topic. So thank you for understanding that. It just helps me keep from rambling all over. I love this. Good afternoon. Ironically, you're doing this live. I just thawed 3 tubs of complete mix and am repacking into individual servings for a 10-day trip. We start this weekend. We'll have fun on your trip. And that's basically what it is. I personally, it's easier for me to thaw all of the ingredients out, mix up big batches of raw, and then put them back in the freezer. I usually do this either every weekend or every other weekend so that I can constantly have food in the freezer. And the reason why is because if I have to leave, if I go on vacation, if I'm not feeling well, if I'm overwhelmed and just really too busy, I love that I don't have to worry about making dog food. I just have to feed dog food. That is why I love to do bulk meal prep. So the question to me was, how best to thaw food to keep it from like growing bacteria and becoming a problematic for a dog or making a dog sick. And is it okay to refreeze raw dog food? So first, let's just get the bacteria thing off the plate. Hey, Ashley, and hey, Julia. So when it comes to feeding raw food, that is the biggest fear that everyone tries to stuff down our throat, is that our dogs are going to, I don't know what they're going to do, but the bacteria is going to harm our dogs somehow. If you have a healthy dog, that should not be a problem. I have 4 dogs. 2 of my dogs have health issues. One has exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, which is a digestive, it's actually an issue with the pancreas. His body doesn't naturally produce digestive enzymes. So basically, left to his own devices, he would starve to death because his body cannot digest food and absorb nutrients. So I add a supplement that pre-digests his food so that he can absorb the nutrients. And voila, it's magic or science. And but he does have digestive issues. He does have environmental allergies, food intolerances, and a few other things. And then we have a dog that has cancer. He has lymphoma and he's going through the CHOP protocol of chemotherapy. So, I don't like to call my dogs unhealthy because they're doing great. But, I do have 2 dogs that aren't like perfectly healthy, and I have 2 dogs that are perfectly healthy. All of them eat the same diet. All of them are doing well. When it comes to our dogs and bacteria, it's important to understand that there is components in their saliva that kills bacteria. Their gut is highly acidic, which also kills bacteria and doesn't make it a comfortable place for bacteria to set up shop and start multiplying. And then they have a shorter digestive tract than humans, so their body processes food a lot easier. So when it comes to bacteria, It can be an issue with some dogs. There's always going to be a dog out there that's like, okay, I can't do this. And for that dog, you can cook for that dog. But I think for the majority of dogs, and keep in mind, not a veterinarian, not a nutritionist, this is just my opinion. I think the majority of dogs do fine on a raw food diet and they don't have any problem with the bacteria. I think that bacteria tail is one, people just trying to scare people away from feeding raw. Two, people who don't think their patients will do the homework to feed a raw food diet properly. So they just want to scare them away from it. And three, like I said, there's going to be a small percentage of dogs that feeding raw isn't a good idea. In fact, I was warned away from feeding raw to Scout because he's going through chemotherapy, which is going to greatly suppress his immune system. So instead of feeding him my raw, I switched him over to Answer's Pet Food, which through fermentation dealt with the bacteria issues. No issues. So we're all good to go. So that's the bacteria. I hope that makes sense to everyone. Now let's talk about freezing. So there are several ways to freeze food, and I do it all. You can just take something and freeze it in thaw food. You can take something and put it in the fridge and let it thaw over days. In my house, with my fridge, it takes anywhere from 4 to 5 days to just start really getting a good thaw going. But after 4 or 5 days, it's not completely thawed. Maybe if it's a small thing, like a small 2-pound chub of green tripe, but if it's a big, like 5-pound or 10-pound package of raw food, yeah, it's going to take forever for it to thaw out. So you can also sit it in the sink. So I will sometimes sit it in the sink and just let it sit in the sink overnight. Sometimes I'll fill the sink with lukewarm water and let it sit overnight or sit for a few hours. Usually where I live in the Pacific Northwest, so I can do this from fall all the way through spring because it doesn't get crazy hot during that time. In July, August, that's when we start getting our really high temperatures here. I'm a little hesitant to leave raw meat out on the counter or in the sink all day long. And in our kitchen, we have one of those kitchen bay windows. So the sun is beating down on the sink all day long. So it's not something I feel comfortable with. So what I'll do during the summer is I just thaw things overnight. So either in the sink or on the counter, but I thaw it overnight, put it in the fridge the next day. When I'm doing meal prep, I do the same thing. I either thaw it in the sink with water, thaw it in the sink without water, do it all day, do it overnight, whatever the case may be. And then I mix everything up and then put it right back in the freezer and we're good to go. So I have been doing this for 8 years. I mean, granted, that is not an official study that proves anything, but it is one person's experience. I have not had a problem whatsoever with my dogs, with raw or anything by doing it this way. So if you are worried that you can't thaw something out, like you have to do it in the fridge and it's taking forever to thaw, or you're afraid to put it in the sink or put it on the counter because you're afraid of bacteria, I'm here to say, don't be. I really don't think it's an issue. If you do have a dog that has a compromised immune system and your dog struggles with eating a raw food diet, then I would recommend feeding a cooked diet. And you can either do this yourself. The person that I look to first when it comes to cooking for dogs is Dr. Judy Morgan. I have all of her books and she is pretty much a genius when it comes to this. And then another thing you can do is buy one of those like subscription services. There are plenty of them out there. There's Nom Nom Now, there's Ollie Pets, there's Farmer's Dog, and so on and so forth. I can't think of all of them, but there are a lot of them out there. They tend to be expensive because again, you're paying for someone else to formulate and to deliver the food to you. You can do it a lot less expensive, or you can spend a lot less money if you do it yourself. But when it comes to cooking for dogs, not my cup of tea, because I don't do that except for, randomly sometimes for fun. But I don't really know anything about making sure you're feeding a nutritious diet that's cooked. But there are people out there that can show you. So that is what I had to say about freezing. I hope that clears things up for a lot of people. I'm going to try and get a little more regular when it comes to doing my YouTube videos. I have come to the conclusion that I cannot stand editing. So instead, I'll be doing short lives that I can just walk away from and be good. So let me just double check, you guys. Oh my gosh. So Julia says, we have 7. At first, I thought you were saying 7 freezers. And I was just like, wow. But I'm thinking that 7 dogs. So we do DIY too. Our freezer and fridge is mostly stocked with their food too. Lori says, I thaw in the water overnight. My dogs have no issues. See, another one. Hi, Rhonda. It's great to, see you too. And then another person that's saying, yep, about Dr. Judy Morgan. She basically is the person that the go-to person when it comes to cooking for dogs, because not only is she going to be able to show you how to do that, she has recipes on her website, drjudymorgan.com, but also she has books that tell you how to make meals that address health issues, which is very valuable. So that is all I have to say. And I hope you guys are having a great week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.